Looking at today's industry, you might get the impression that developers have forgotten how to make thoughtful games. In the pursuit of skill, activity, and achievement factors, actors forget why users like to spend time and in interactive projects. People want to get emotion from the virtual walk and enjoy the process of passing. Daily tasks and mopping up outposts will not bring feeling of delightful and joy. These routines active serve as just another tick on the list of errands. These emotions are aroused by the elaborate gameplay mechanics, interesting story, atmosphere, and soundtrack. Thankfully, the developer from the Moon Studio remembers this. Back in the days of Ori and at the Blind Forest, they struck the world with a component combination of platforming, colorful stylistics, and complex puzzles. And now the company has released the second part of its now franchise. Ori and the Will of the Wisp is a sequel that repeats the concept of the original and adds a lot of new elements. The developers tries to surpass their first creation and make the sequel even more memorable. Spoiler, they coped with these tasks at 100%. The plot of Ori and the Will of the Wisp starts from the moment where the previous part ends. Ori's spirit resembling either a squirrel or a fox, along with her companions, Naro and Guma, begin to keep an eye on the old Ku. It hatched from the egg of the dead KURO-O, the antagonist of the Ori and the Blind Forest, and becomes the forest child of the aforementioned characters. As the bird grew older, she wanted to fly, but a damaged wind prevented her from taking to the air. To help Ku, Ori and her companions attach KURO's feather to the owl's body. The protagonist Purple got very excited and wanted to fly. The protagonist sat on the back, and together they flew high into air. After a while there was a thunderstorm. A strong wind began, and Ku lost a feather. Ori and the owl flew down a rock and landed in different places. When the protagonist came to his senses, he began to look for his apprentices. And from the moment the dramatic plot of Ori and the Will of the Wisp begins. The first part of the series showed the user. The Moon Studio can write the heartbreaking stories with fairy tale entourage. In the sequel, the developer did not break tradition and create an even more sad story. Some moments of the game are able to squeeze out a military even from the most experienced user. Moreover, the fabulous entourage and ML characters only contribute to the heart of passion. When a sad moment arrives, you want to rush to fix the sorrow that has happened. In terms of structure, the plot is divided into two conditional parts. The first part captivates with its smooth narration. The protagonist goes to his goal and at the same time gets acquainted with different characters. Users are presented with the story in the portions, and this is done at very opportune moments. When you want to take a break from the platforming and combat, here too the player will notice two important differences between Ori and the Will of the Wisp and the original, an increased number of characters and the presence of dialogues. Conversation with different NPCs enrich the world of the project, make it more lively and complex. Non-playable personalities also give Ori minor errands and share rumors. In these missions, the protagonist is most often asked to bring a certain thing to a certain character or scout a certain area. Conceptually, they are by no means original, but in the world of Ori and the Will of the Wisp, their presence is not at all annoying. First of all, the map rarely shows the points where the side quests are performed. This motivates exploring the area and chatting with every character you meet. Second, the player rarely has to divide from the itinerant route to complete an extra errand. Third, completing side mission is always rewarded with different utility. And everything seems to be fine with the narrative. But then a turning point occurs and the developers step on the same rake as in Ori and the Blind Forest. The player is tasked with finding 3 specific objects in different parts of the world. Because of this, the narrative becomes turn, and the main character begins to interact with the character less frequently. The second problem can be leveled out by entering the hub, the central location of the Neven forest. Here the user is given to spend shards of aura and seeds collected in the location to improve the champ. Take a few quests, find useful items, and acquire skills. The leveling system in Ori and the Will of the Wisp has changed a lot when compared to the original. The user has 3 active skill cells, which are used in battles and to overcome obstacles. The list includes Spirit Sword, strikes, powerful hammer attacks, launching flaming projectiles, archery shots, health regeneration, and so on. To use some of the abilities you need energy. The blue cells shown at the bottom of the screen next to the amount of life. The resource is dropped from enemies and crystals scattered around the game world, so using active skill is almost never a problem. Passive skills are represented by spirit shards, which are inserted in separate boxes. At first the user can equip 3 of these abilities, but this number can easily be increased by fighting in special combat centuries. This is a small arena in which the protagonist fight waves of enemies. For victory, the user gets an extra cell, where a shard of spirit can be inserted. The system of passive and active abilities looks fresh in the series. Players are free to customize their fighting and passing style, but there is a bit of problem here. Some skills are mandatory, while other playthrough you don't really want to use. For example, hanging on walls reduces the difficulty of all platforming stages. The magnet allows you to attract spheres of light that acts as local currency, and other resource and recklessness increase Ori and enemy hits by 50%. The first 2 shards help the player a lot, but the effect of the third is questionable. In general, it's rare to have to choose between 2 useful passive abilities. It's different with active skills, because they can be reassigned at any time. Even in the middle of the battle with an enemy, the user is free to change skills, for example, to choose recovery to replenishment-free life health. This innovation made the combat system much more dynamic. The user can combine skills in every way and find ways to easily eliminate enemies. The fact that skills for overcoming obstacles became combat skills also adds variety. Archery shoots allow you to control special platforms, but they also deal damage. Individual shards are capable of exchanging active skills, at the expense of which the player will be able to emphasize his fighting style. Of course, the modes are completely unique. Ori is not possible, but there is a variety and there is great. As for the mining skills, everything is simple. They are issued for completing missions, scattered around the world, purchased from merchants, or became available after interacting with the glowing trees as the original. But they are bestiary in contrast to the skills, not too much joy with the variety. Many of the enemies are plucked from the first part, and the original opponents are not more than a dozen. The author of course tried to compensate this with several versions of the enemy, but they didn't turn out well. Somewhere in the middle of the passage you begin to realize that even again you destroy the same enemies. This should not be taken as a serious disadvantage, because the battles are highly dynamic, and the enemies differ in pattern of behavior, speed and attacks. And also in Eerie and the Will and the Wisp are implemented bosses. Huge creature to which you need to look at separate approach. Such enemies have unique arsenal of attacks and are able of cause a lot of problems. It is in battles with bosses that you have to change skills, develop tactics and adapt to the environment in arenas most often. In the end, Ori and the Will of the Wisp can be called an amazing game. Conceptually, it's not longer surprised like the first part of the franchise, but the developer took into account many negative aspects of the original. They made the world more vivid, changed the combat system, pumping, added a hub and races, the graphics became even more lush, and the fairy tale atmosphere makes you immerse into Ori and the Will of the Wisp universe from the first minutes of the game. And we shouldn't forget about the dramatic story with twist too. The game of course is not devoid of minor flaws, but they dissolve against the background of the fundamental adventure. Thank you for watching.